Hello everyone and welcome to another excellent game from the FIDE 2019 World Cup in Khanty-Mansiysk. This is a game from, around 1.2. The first game between these two gentlemen, Russian Grandmaster Alexander Rakhmanov and Swedish Grandmaster Nils Grandelius, ended in a draw. So here, if either of them wins, that means the other guy is getting knocked out of the competition. It's a really nice game, really complicated game, really shows you even Grandmasters are sometimes confused in certain positions, and I enjoyed it, so I hope you will enjoy it as well. Rakhmanov opens with c4, so the English opening is on the board. We have c5, continuing in a symmetrical fashion. We have knight to f3, knight to c6, and now knight to c3, and e5. We have e3 by white, preparing a d4 here. That's d4, knight to f6, and now d4 as planned, with e4 pushing the pawn further, and now knight to e5. And this is nothing new, this has all been played before. And here g6 is the most played move here, but h5 also a known move. With bishop to e2, white prepares the castle, and now bishop to d6. Now with a double attack on the knight here on e5 and f4 here. So you don't want to capture. Capturing just allows knight captures back on f3, and the white is left with a really strong center. So c captures on d4 with e captures on d4, and now bishop back to b8. This is, like I said, all been played before. With castles by white, and now knight to e7. And here c5 by white, grabbing more space. With some ideas of maybe knight can go to c4, maybe the knight can come to d6, completely block black's position. And here knight to f5 is a known move, but the move black played is a new move in the position, and that is d6. With c captures on d6, and it's not a problem, it's not that it's a wrong move or anything. But what black should have done is played queen captures on d6 now, but this is really a tough position, so it's impossible to predict what's gonna happen. Black played knight to f5 with the idea of recapturing later. You can recapture with the knight, with the bishop, with the queen, so obviously it's not a problem. But here black is lost. Now I know what you're thinking, how is black lost? This is a pretty long video, and you know it's 50 some moves in the game. Well, it's only if white plays the strongest move, so feel free to pause the video here and try to find this elusive move that white missed in this position while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are simply an amazing player. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, the move played in the game is queen to a4, which is not the correct move. The queen is needed to keep an eye on the h5 pawn. Bishop to b5 check actually wins the game, which is pretty incredible at this point in the game. It's only move 13 that a game could be concluded between two 26 plus grandmasters. The point is that if you block check, it doesn't work, and king f8 doesn't work either. For example, we can show knight to d7. If you go knight to d7, then just knight captures on e4. And then, well, whatever you decide to do with black. For example, if you castle, which is probably what you want to do, you don't want to keep your king stranded in the center, you get bishop to c4 with an attack against the f7 pawn, and the queen is still attacking the h5 pawn. So let's say you go knight captures on d6. You don't want to capture here, otherwise you allow white this massive pawn center. So you'll play probably knight captures on d6, but then after knight captures and bishop captures, finally you get queen captures on h5, again with the triple attack against the f7 pawn. So what do you play here? You eliminate one of the attackers, but then the rook also starts attacking the f7 pawn. And there's really no good way to defend it. For example, if you try queen here, then you get bishop to h6, really an awesome move, because now queen g6 is the threat, as the f-pawn is pinned due to the bishop on c4. Of course, queen captures on g7 will be mate. And here, after you capture, still queen g6 check, king h8, you will get queen captures on h6 check, king g8, and now rook to f5, and there is no defense against rook to g5 mate. The f-pawn is still pinned. You could try knight knight captures with the idea of blocking with knight g6, but it still doesn't work as the f pawn is still pinned. This would still be mate. So this is one of the lines that are possible after bishop to b5 check. If you block with the knight, if you block with the bishop, it's a bit different, but bishop captures on d7, knight captures on d7, and now again knight captures on e4. And now still, you don't want to capture here, otherwise white gets this massive pawn center. You should eliminate this pawn, but still you get knight captures here, and now knight to g5. This is just wonderful. And now if you castle, then of course queen captures on h5. You have a knight on g5. It's not a pleasant position. And if you eliminate one of the attackers, for example knight captures, then you give white this beautiful pawn chain in the center. Also the f7 pawn is under attack from the knight and from the rook. Let's say you move the knight, knight b5. Now just knight captures on f7 and it's game over. For example, queen captures with check. You can trade here, and then just knight captures rook, and well, you wrap a whole rook. That being said, let's check out what else can you do after bishop to b5 check. So you can block with the knight, you can block with the bishop. King f8 would be the only move, but here comes the idea, d7. And this is, I mean, to calculate all of this, you would have to invest a lot of time into this position. Most likely why Rakhmanov missed the idea of bishop to b5, because now after bishop captures, knight captures, you get queen to b3. Queen to b3 threatening mate on f7, also attacking the b7 pawn. And here, after you eliminate the knight, for example, bishop captures, you will play f captures on e5. And now the rook is attacking the knight. You can't really move the knight. You can't move it here. You can't move it here. Otherwise, bishop captures, and you're still getting mated on f7. So you can block, but then you get queen captures on b7. And here, once you try king g7, you want to get your rook into the game. White will also pick up this pawn, and this is just lost for black. You're up 2 pawns, you have this amazing pawn center, and, well, slowly but surely black will lose this game. So after knight f5, it was actually bishop to b5. This was the move, but white tried a different plan. White tried queen to a4 check. Now it's a bit different because you no longer have your queen eyeing that h5 pawn, which was super important in all of the lines that we've shown. King to f8, and now white continues with a similar plan, d7, with bishop captures, knight captures with check, queen captures, so the queens are getting traded off the board, knight captures, and the knight captures on e4. And seems instead of winning the game right away on move 13, white is now up a pawn, or so white would have black think, because black decided to capture on d4, which also doesn't work, as white has a very strong attack now, even with the queens off the board. White played bishop to c4. The idea is knight to g5 and going after the f7 pawn. With knight b6 going after the bishop, but now white has really an amazing move. Also, this is a really good time for you to pause the video and try to again find the winning move for white in this position while I give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, really congratulations. Again, you are an excellent player. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, rook to d1. Rook to d1, point being that you cannot trade. If you trade, you get rook captures, your knight is under attack, you have to move it. If you move it, unless you want to lose it, then comes rook d8 check, and you lose the rook on h8. So if you don't want to lose a whole rook, you have to play something. Black found knight to c2, and now he's offering the h8 rook for the a1 rook, but it doesn't work. We have rook d8 check, king to e7, rook captures, and now knight captures on a1. The problem is, how are you going to get this knight back into the game? White played bishop to d3, taking away the c2 square, and now you can never play rook c8 or something, because once you develop the bishop, the rooks are getting traded off. But black has this, well, at least some play with bishop to e5. Now, once you trade rooks, the idea is, of course, first bishop to d4 check, and only then will you recapture. So rook captures on a8 with bishop to d4 check, king f1, and only now knight captures on a8. King to e2 now, you want to get rid of your dark square bishop, and then bring the king over to the knight, pick up the knight, and then you're just up a piece. Of course, in a winning position. Black will try to somehow prevent it. Knight c7 with knight to c3. and king to d6, bishop to e3. Now either you move the bishop and then the king just goes after the knight, or you trade. Black decided to trade with bishop captures, king captures, and king to c5. With king to d2, white is now going after the stranded knight on a1, and now b5. Black wants to play b4 and b3, either to try and trade on b3 or to create an outpost for the knight on c2 to at least give up a pawn to get the knight into the game. Knight e4 check with king to d4 and now knight to d6, pressuring both of the pawns and also threatening knight f5 check to pick up the g7 pawn. So while black is busy trying to figure out how to get the knight out, white is just happily pawn hunting, you know, with the knight. b4 continuing with the plan of b3 and trying to somehow get the knight back into the game, but now knight f5 check. King back to c5, and of course knight captures on g7, going after the h5 pawn. We have h4, getting the pawn out of harm's way, and now knight back to f5, again going after the pawn. We have knight to d5 now, going after the f4 pawn, but white decides, yeah, that's perfectly fine. Knight captures, we have knight captures, and now b3, preventing black from pushing b3, and now this knight is, well, pretty stranded over there. With a5 by black, and now g3 first, pushing the knight back, knight to d5, and now king to c1. Of course, now the knight is being gonna be captured, or maybe not. We'll see what happens. King to d4 now, attacking the bishop, bishop to f5, and now king to c3. And now here you want to play king to b1, but you kind of don't, but you have to play it, because after king to b1, of course, black will capture the two pawns and will have two connected pass pawns here, but white is still winning in this position, and this is what white should have done, as it would be much faster. With the route that white took, he allowed black to get his knight back into the game. Knight to f3, but now comes the knight to e3. Now the problem is both of the knights are controlling the c2 square as well as the king, so the next move the knight is coming back into the game. Also, you have to react as your bishop is under attack here. So here white decided to play g4 with knight captures, pawn captures, and now knight to c2. So the knight is back in the game, but black has more problems. The passed h pawn is a very fast pawn. So first white played f6 to keep this pawn on f7, so you can easily attack it with the knight. Knight to e3, black also wants to pick up the f6 pawn, as it's a very dangerous pawn. Knight to e5, and now knight to d5. The df pawns are getting traded off. We have knight captures, and now knight back to e5. So now white is ready to start pushing the h pawn. We have knight to e4 and now h4. And now knight to g3 would have been a more resilient defense, but still it would not be enough. With a4 by black, b captures on a4, and now king to d4. So black doubled white's pawns, so the king can keep an eye on both of them. With a5 by white, king to c5, and now h5. White will now simultaneously be pushing both of the kingside and queenside pawns, whereas black will have to keep an eye on the queenside pawn with the king and on the kingside pawn with the knight. So knight to f6, attacking the pawn, also guarding h7, with h6, and now king b5. And now knight to c4, showing off a bit, but you know, if it works, it works. Of course, you cannot capture the knight because a6 just queens. You cannot go after the pawn with the knight because the knight has to be here to keep an eye on this pawn. So black played king a6 and now king to d2. White is now just happily strolling with his king to get rid of the knight, and that is it. King b5 with king to d3, with king to a6, king to e2, with king to b5. Black is without a move here. You can just repeat moves with the knight or with the king, whichever you prefer. King to f3, and it was in this position that Swedish Grandmaster Nils Grandelius resigned the game, as he can just wait for the inevitable. If you're interested what the inevitable is here, we can just show it. King to a6, now you just go after the knight. King b5, you go after the knight. Knight h7, now you attack the knight. King g6, knight will check you, you're gonna go king g7. Knight e6 check, you're gonna go king f7, and after this final check, knight d8, you're gonna go king f6, and now the knight can no longer check you or get near you. You are controlling the important squares. The knight needs to go after the pawn, and now you're just gonna play h7, h8 queen, and that wins the game. So yeah, after king f3, Grandelius resigned the game, and this means that Alexander Rakhmanov goes further into the FIDE World Cup, which means he still has a chance at the candidates tournament, whereas it's a game over for Niels Grandelius. He grabs his $6,000 and he goes home. So that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Sharon Sun and Fernando Esteves de Oliveira for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the FIDE World Cup 2019. And of course, by all means, keep on suggesting games as nice as this one, as I will be mostly going through your suggestions, as there are so many games being played. I can't keep track of all of them. So yeah, thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.